Go. Well, good evening, Club 17, and welcome to another episode of Rotarian Spotlight. And since we're unable to meet for lunch each week because of the health crisis, I thought it'd really be fun to come up with an opportunity to interview Rotarians and try to get to know them better. So tonight, we're fortunate to have Sam Schutte with us tonight. So good evening, Sam.
Good evening.
How are things tonight on a Tuesday night?
Oh, it feels like every night's a Friday, right?
Absolutely. But, I've known Sam for, I don't know, Sam, probably 7 or 8 years now. And I think over the years, one thing I've learned about Sam is that he's an extremely creative person in virtually everything that he does. So I think you'll really see that come to life tonight. But Sam, tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe a little bit about your family, your career,
Yeah,
maybe even your favorite food, hobbies, interests.
sure. Yeah, so let's see. So I was born and raised here in Cincinnati. I grew up in Evendale. Um, my dad worked for Great American Insurance downtown, and so they kind of stayed around town here for that. And so really, my whole family's from Cincinnati, like a lot of us. Um, Went to Princeton High School, and then went off to college at University of Pittsburgh. Um, my wife and I are high school sweethearts, and from Princeton. And when I came back from Pittsburgh, you know, staying together through college, and came back from Pittsburgh, and then of course got married, and 3 kids later, and 3 houses later, we are we've been married for it'll be 17 years in July this year, which is kind of hard to believe. And so we have 3 kids, 3 dogs, and live in Sharonville, Ohio. And um, let's see. So my wife's a teacher, teaches at Lakota, and my kids are 5, almost 11, and 13.
Sounds like a busy household to me.
Oh yes, everything that could happen. It's like Murphy's Law. Everything could happen, does happen, right?
What about some of your hobbies or interests?
So let's see. I mean, when I have time, I like to exercise. I've always, when I was in high school, I always did a lot of sports. So, I mean, at times I've been into running, um, biking. I've done a decent amount of rock climbing in my days. I started rock climbing when I was in college. I don't do it a whole lot now, but I still try to do at least kind of one major trip a year. My climbing partner and we've climbed together for probably about 13 years now. And we kind of said, as long as we do one big trip a year and just stay in shape for that, we don't have to climb every weekend. I mean, we live in Cincinnati, there's not much around. But I mean, we've climbed, 1,000-foot walls in North Carolina. We did a 1,200-foot climb in British Columbia a couple of years ago. Um, we we were planning on going down to uh, a climbing area in northern Mexico pretty soon, but that's kind of been put on hold for a while. So I've been doing that for 20 years, and kind of you know, uh, not necessarily the greatest physical shape for climbing, but I do know a lot about it. um,
Well, I'm
and
I'm afraid of heights, so I probably won't be your next partner, Sam. I'm sorry.
yeah, um, and then just uh, I still played. I started playing trumpet when I was in 5th grade, so I've been playing for trumpet for a very long time, however many years that is. Still play at church probably about twice a month with the choir there. Um, so I'm a retired trumpet player, practically, I guess, or whatever. I was in the marching band all through college and all that. So I mean, I was an uber band geek because I played for, all through high school, all through college. Um, and playing trumpet for a Division 1 marching band with a Division 1 football school at Pitt. I mean, we played at OSU, Penn State, Notre Dame. I played on the field at the Buffalo Bills, the New York Jets, the Bengals, the Steelers. I mean, we played all over the place, um, and it was pretty neat when you walk out there in front of 100,000 people, and you're standing on the 50-yard line, and because I had to be like the one trumpet sometimes by myself out there before the rest of the band, so it kind of got you strangely used to it. But So I don't know. Maybe I'm a glutton for attention. I don't know.
Tell you what, from rock climbing to being in the band, that's quite the extremes there. So,
Yeah.
I think you, if I'm not mistaken, you joined Rotary in 2011.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about maybe some of the reasons you joined and some of the reasons you remain a member.
Yes. So it's funny. It was pretty random. I have known Gretchen Fenniff for a very long time as well because of the rock climbing. Her and her husband used to own a rock climbing guiding service in Red River Gorge, and so they were really involved in the Red River climbing scene. So I met her there, and knew of her there, and just kind of randomly in 2011, she reached out and said, "Hey, you should consider joining Rotary. I think it'd be good for your business." And I said, "All right, okay." Um, and I think the two kind of things for me. I mean, at the time I was um, 33, I think, 35 maybe, something like that. And I think when you're a younger entrepreneur like that, you really don't know anybody. I didn't know anybody. I mean, I lived up in the northern suburbs. I probably knew three people downtown, you know. And I really wanted to get connected with real like business leadership and decision makers, and it's not like just people that I could sell to or something, but more just connected, influential people that I felt like had quality of thought and advice and so forth. Um, and I think the other thing I remember, Doug Bolton was speaking at. We had one of those events at the Taft over the in the building across from Fountain Square there, the Taft Event Center. And Doug Bolton said, uh, a lot of us, he said, look, none of us are probably going to be Bill Gates, right? We're not going to have billions of dollars. And so it's hard. We're not going to be the Andrew Carnegie's being, philanthropists to that degree. But if we can pool our resources, we can do some pretty impressive things, you know, in a similar vein to what those guys do to some degree. Um, and that really kind of clarified in my mind that it was a group I wanted to join because, I want to be able to do things that bigger things as a collective than I can do on my own. And I think that's always kind of been true, with the people, talent, and coin and everything else that this group can throw towards things, um, has always sort of allowed me to do much bigger things and bigger projects than I could do on my own, for sure. But yeah.
Awesome. What are some maybe of your fondest memories in the last 8 years within Rotary?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, Trying to think of speakers that have been really, especially touching or interesting. And we've had some really great ones in recent years. Um, uh, I feel like we've had some really good ones around baseball players coming in. Bronson Arroyo, and I can't remember the player that was part of the Big Red Machine that came in. And I think I recall his. I can't remember his name, but he was talking about what a leader Pete Rose was and the leadership qualities he had, which that really struck me. Um, you know,
I think
so
that
we
might
had,
have been Dave Collins, maybe. Is that?
yeah, it could be. Yeah, I'm not a huge baseball, knowledge person. Um, I think for me, I worked very heavily on the Wage Sensi Peace project a few years ago, and that was very impactful for me just because nothing, I'd never done anything similar to that before, or try to do a big project like that. Um, and it really kind of made me feel like, I can do things that are new to me, and so that was quite a rewarding event for me to do as well.
Very good. So rumor has it, Sam, that you've been quite busy this past week. You've had a few things happen in your business and personal life, and you created the Cincinnati version of the virtual tip jar. And I know you've done it in a few other cities as well. But tell me about that. That's you've gotten a lot of national and local press attention from that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny because so basically, I feel like last week, particularly in these sort of trying times, I was pretty much sitting at the computer all day reading and infection reports and watching these numbers climb up and creep up, and very sort of stressful, scary time. And I just sort of felt like, I don't know, I wanted to do something about it, and or at least just contribute somehow to a part of the solution. In particular, I feel so bad for all these service industry workers, restaurants and bars and stuff that it's such a huge portion of our economy. And you think about, as the folks at the Hilton and stuff that our club is working to try to help. As a proud member of the 131 Club, all that bar staff. I mean, all of them are unemployed. They're completely out of work. Um, and goodness knows they depend on the 131 for tips, for because we do tip pretty well. I think we tend to there, and just having that all evaporate. What is it? A week? It's been over maybe a week and a half now, I think. With I'm not sure what the end in sight is for that. And so, long story short, I found some resources out there that people were using in Pittsburgh to create these virtual tip jars. And the idea is it's basically just a database of you know, a service industry employee from a restaurant or bar, and then what restaurant they worked at, and then their electronic payment information that they have. There's all these apps out there nowadays that, I mean, they're cropping up like crazy, and a lot of people may not be familiar with them. But PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, that are peer-to-peer payment solutions. So, if you want to give your son or your parents $20, you can just essentially wire it to them. And so, you know, everybody of a certain generation, if they're working restaurants and bars, they all have these. Okay. Um, and so that's what this database contains is that information. So, for instance, you can go on there right now and you can see there's 5 or 6, um, you know, people from, any given restaurant in OTR. I think there are some people in the Hilton there and stuff, for instance. Um, and if you see their name and you recognize them and you can look up their picture on their profile, you're like, oh, I know that person. That's my favorite bartender. And you can send them a tip. And, it's not exactly a donation, of course. I sort of look at it as, well, these are the tips I would have been paying anyway, you know, if I was actually sitting there. And, and because the real question I think we have to ask ourselves is, do we want these people to be there when we come out of this? Um, because they might not be otherwise. They might get jobs in a factory and then we'll never see them again. um, they have to do something. you know they might move to Canada or something. I don't know what the if this lasts too long, they won't have a choice. um, so anyway, so I put that out there. And we have probably about 1,400 people in the Cincinnati database now, so it's really been exploding. We got written up on abcnews.com, which is, of course, a national website, as well as the Inquirer and Channel 12. We were on Channel 9 today, WCPO. So we can get a lot of media attention about it. And I think it's just because it's directly applicable to something people are thinking about. And it's kind of a little bit, different solution to a problem people didn't know how else to solve, basically, right? Um, So yeah, I mean, our website traffic is up 15,000% this week, or whatever, because of this. So it's pretty funny sitting there, and it's funny watching our real time traffic on our website, which you can do. When it aired on the TV last night, and I came back to my computer, and it just went up to like 260 people from normal level of maybe like 5 or 6 people.
Wow.
It's pretty funny to watching it kind of go up and down. So yeah, it's been interesting, and I'm glad that we can. Uh, I don't know that people evidently seem to see a need for it.
And you've also created one for, what'd you say, Orlando, the Bay Area in California, and one more, I believe it, you told me.
Yeah, in Columbus. Yeah, and so I
Columbus.
got
Okay.
Columbus, Orlando, and the Bay Area, and that was really just because people said, "Hey, could you create one for us?" Because of course, a key part of this is somebody has to promote it to get enough people aware of it.
Sure.
Um, So I made one for those areas. I mean, obviously Orlando is pretty heavily hit, just because there were a lot of people going down to Disney World for spring break normally.
Sure.
or even, and I mean, spring break runs, of course, from March through May. And that's just that this year, that just didn't happen. It's just
Mm.
gone. Um, and, uh, so there's somebody down there kind of helping to promote that, as well as in the Bay Area. And like today, the mayor of Oakland, California, tweeted about the site. Very
Mm.
random. It's like, where is Oakland, Cali? What, I don't, why? How did they know about this? But the people out there, who, the person who is kind of managing that, they've been working it. So
That's amazing.
yeah, it's pretty funny.
And I guess you're not busy enough running a software company that you also have created an environmentally sustainable biogas startup as well. So that's
Yeah.
quite another venture you have going on. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So it's funny. And it relates back into some of the stuff with Rotary, because the problem with like a consulting services business, and your business is marketing services and printing and consulting and stuff as well. So you understand this, not being a product company or a construction company or something per se. You're always kind of running from project to project to project, right? And so I've been wanting to kind of diversify what I do for a while. And believe it or not, after we did that, you know, Wage Sensi Peace boat party and that project, I just kind of felt like I mentioned, I felt like, um, gee, we pulled this off somehow. I mean, I
Mm.
put a ton of time into it. I had never done an event before, but myself and other folks on the team pulled it off, and so I kind of felt like, um, maybe I can do other things that I don't really have any background in, and so. Um, I knew some folks in the renewable energy industry, who had more background than me, and so we kind of partnered up and got kind of hooked it all in together, and have been working on this startup that is in the renewable energy space, and um, we've been working on that about 3 years. Um, and it's kind of a long, involved process, but basically is a way to produce renewable fuels from manufacturing byproducts, right? So we're hoping that we're kind of in the engineering and permitting phase right now of that project. Um, Hoping that probably later this fall that might come to a fruition. But yeah, it's definitely it's a it's a side business that sometimes takes up more than half my time for sure. But something has to pay the bills because it's also a zero revenue business until it actually gets something built.
Well, it's pretty exciting from what you've told me about what the future may hold in that whole area. So, and I know
Yeah,
that our club is interested in pursuing some more environmental opportunities as a club and projects as well. So, we're going to try to get some
yeah,
things going on that front as well this year. So, Rotarians, I think now you know why Sam is such a creative leader and has been in this club. I mean, based upon what you've just talked about with us, Sam. So I really appreciate you taking the time tonight to spend with us, and hopefully very soon we'll be able to see each other face to face here and be back in the Hall of Mirrors.
yeah,
So thanks so
yeah,
much for being here, Sam.
yeah. Thank you, Dave, for having me, and glad to be able to kind of just share more of my background story with folks that I may not have had a chance to sit down and talk to at a table before.
That sounds good. And Rotarians, until next time, please stay safe and healthy and go out and make it a good day. Good night, everyone.